Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's briefing, a strategic briefing on Israel and Iran. We are honored to host such a distinguished expert who will provide insight into the current strategic landscape in the Middle East, Israel's security consideration, and the ongoing Operation Epic Fury and Roaring Lion. To begin, it's my privilege to introduce Mr. Dani Naveh, President and the CEO of Israel Bonds.
Thank you, Joe, and welcome to this special briefing. Many people ask themselves these days, how can they help Israel in these challenging times? And there are probably different ways to help the Israelis and the state of Israel these days. But the most direct and impactful way to help Israel is by buying Israel bonds. Because by buying Israel bonds, you first make a strong statement of solidarity, of standing strong with Israel. At the same time, it's a sound financial decision. You support the Israeli economy and you get strong and steady return. Israel Bonds has played during the years, and especially during challenging times, an important role in Israel's economy resilience. And if we take a look at what happened since October 7th, I'm proud to say that during the last 2 years and a half, we raised for Israel more than $7.3 billion worldwide. Israel's economy is strong and steadfast and resilient, as we all know. And every Israel Bonds investor can take pride in knowing that he or she plays such an important role in Israel's economy resilience. And the money that we have raised, these funds that we have raised for Israel, are essential for Israel's future and Israel's resilience. As we look at the events and this ongoing operation, the performance of the IDF and the American Armed Forces is impressive. But if you ask me what is not less impressive, even more impressive, is the spirit, the strong and steadfast spirit of the Israelis. Most of the Israelis understand that this is not just a war on the existence or the right of the Jewish state to exist. This is a campaign or an operation on the future of human civilization. And when we see the Americans and Israelis shoulder to shoulder, it's now our turn. It's our turn to support Israel, to make an investment, not just to ask ourselves how can we help, but to move ahead with an investment in Israel bonds, an investment in Israel resilience. So I urge and I call upon each and every one of you, right after this important briefing, please go on israelbonds.com. If you already have an account with us, you can just make a purchase. If you don't have an account, you can open an account today and move ahead with your support for Israel. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dani, for your thoughtful words. Now, we are honored to welcome Lieutenant Colonel Nadav Shoshani, Israel's Defense Force spokesperson, who will provide a live update on Israel's security posture and strategic considerations.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Dani. Thank you, Israel Bonds, for having me. It's a great honor. And before I even say anything about the operation, I want to speak about the weeks and years leading up to this operation. When we're seeing Israeli-American technology and pilots dominating Iranian technology and Iranian fighters, it is built first and foremost, and I've met top American generals, it is first and foremost built on shared values, a shared enemy also, but shared values and a core togetherness. That Israel Bonds is one of the elements that holds together the two nations. And our cooperation in the battlefield is built on cooperation in groups like this and with people like the many people who are on today. So I want to first say thank you I know a lot of people say thank you to the IDF and to the troops, but I want to say thank you to you for your support. One, for moral reasons, for morale reasons, but also for building the foundation for military cooperation and what we're seeing in Iranian sky. So I'm going to do a very quick brief of what's been happening so far in the battlefield and maybe a tiny bit of where this is going to go forward. On February 28th, we launched Operation Roaring Lion, an operation to remove an existential threat and to degrade the Iranian regime's capabilities. The Iranian regime was moving forward dangerously, moving forward, producing those ballistic missiles that we've seen all throughout the region and even towards Europe, towards 2 European countries. Those ballistic missiles, they were producing more and more, dozens a month, working to achieve a pace of hundreds a month and really moving forward in a dangerous direction, and also fortifying and concealing their nuclear program in a way that demanded action before it was too soon. They were working to get immunity both to their nuclear program and also an immunity of deterrence for the countries in the region, as we can see what the amount of missiles they have right now does to the entire region and how they are able to threat the entire region right now and the whole global economic system with their actions. So we decided to take action. It was based on, as I said, weeks of specific planning with our American counterparts, but actually years of experience and working together with CENTCOM, who has been our greatest ally and our greatest partner that has saved thousands of lives in Israel, but also in the entire region throughout the last 3 years. An amazing cooperation that was based first and foremost on defense against Iranian aggressions in the beginning of this war after October 7th, Iranian and their proxies, but is now also carrying out one of the most incredible operations in Iranian sky. So we started this operation, first of all, taking advantage of the element of surprise, eliminating 40 of the most wanted people in the world in 40 seconds. And the second thing we did is establish the conditions for us and the Americans to operate freely, set the condition for successful rest of the operation. So we were able to take out their aerial defense systems, more than 80% of their aerial defense systems and radars, to create a situation in which the Iranians are considered blind in some terms. And the second thing we did was take out their offensive capabilities. We saw what they did in the first 2-3 days of this operation, how heavily they targeted civilians, how heavily they target the countries in the region. And we were able, alongside the U.S. Armed Forces, to take action that reduced their firepower. We neutralized more than 2/3 of their missile launchers. We are making it, and as we're speaking right now, there are drones and aircraft in Iranian skies, making sure that we're hunting down their missiles. And commanders are scared right now to fire missiles towards Israel. People who are in Israel can say there's a lot of sirens, but each one is 1, 2, or 3 missiles. And in the region, we've seen a decrease in the amounts. And since then, we've moved forward to targets to make sure that our achievements will last long, will have a long lasting effect. We're going after their production sites, we're going after their command centers, and we're going after their nuclear programs. On March 1st, on the night between March 1st and March 2nd, their main proxy, Hezbollah, decided to join a war against Israel. Now, Hezbollah has been funded and directed by Iran for decades. Since day one of this operation, Iran has been pressuring Hezbollah to join the war against Israel. In the last year alone, 2025, a year where some Iranians had no drinking water, Iran pushed money into the Middle East to threaten Israel. A lot of it going to Hezbollah, almost $1 billion in 2025. So this terror group, Hezbollah, which is an extension of the Iranian regime, but it's an extension on our border, decided, they call themselves the Defenders of Lebanon, but they decided to take the interests of the Iranian terror regime over the interest of the Lebanese people. And we responded swiftly. We knew this was a possibility. We carried out strikes against their terrorists. We've placed our troops on the borderline to prevent them from approaching the border area. After October 7th, they did the same thing. They took those vantage points. They fired towards our civilians, and we had to evacuate all of northern Israel. So we took action. We placed our soldiers in defensive defensive lines inside the border with Lebanon, protecting our civilians. And we've been able to have good achievements. But our soldiers are standing and fighting. Our soldiers are doing the mission of what every IDF soldier does: stand between terrorists and civilians and prevent attacks. Sadly, we've had 2 soldiers killed in Hezbollah attacks, but our soldiers have been able to successfully push back Hezbollah. so far our civilians have been safe. And even though Hezbollah has fired over 1,000 rockets and UAVs and missiles towards Israel, we've had a few civilians lightly injured, but we've been able to defend our civilians in northern Israel, and we haven't had to evacuate them. As we're speaking right now, I promise to be brief. So as we're speaking right now, we have Israeli and American aircraft operating over Iranian skies 24/7. First of all, to thwart the threats towards the entire region, to make sure they have a hard time firing missiles. And the second thing is to make sure we degrade this Iranian's regime capabilities long term. And we are able to make a change that will be long lasting and will better the situation for Israel, but the entire region. And the second thing is we are operating against Hezbollah now. This terror army, it's a terror group now. We've been able to reduce them a lot in the last 3 years, but they're firing missiles, rockets, UAVs towards our civilians. And we're adamant to make them pay. We're adamant to push them away. We're adamant to make sure we defend our civilians no matter what happens. And there's still a way to go in both arenas, but we've had great achievements. And if I can finish with a statement, the whole is larger than the sum of its parts. This coordination between Israel and the U.S., especially in Iran, is a coordination that takes the advantages of both sides and brings great operational achievements that we've seen. And some of the achievements, especially in the first few days, incredible achievements. We're talking about Iran is an enormous country. It's the size of half of Europe. It has 10 times the population of Israel. And we've been able to create aerial superiority over Iranian skies for the last 13 days, flying in and out, sometimes almost 1,500 miles away, flying in and out safely. No pilots have been shot down, knock on wood. Our pilots are safe. American pilots are safe. And the mission continues as we speak right now. And I promise to be short to leave time for the great Sima shine that is after me.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel Shoshani, for that detailed briefing. We now turn to an in-depth analysis with Sima Shine, senior researcher at the Institute for National Security Studies, as known as the INSS, and former director of its Iran and the Shia Axis program. Most of her career serving in the Israeli intelligence community, including as the head of the Research and Evaluation Division of the Mossad, where she played a central role in shaping Israel's understanding of regional threats. Following her retirement from the Mossad, she held a senior position in Israel's National Security Council and the Ministry of Strategic Affairs, leading the work of Iranian portfolio. Her decades of experience provide unparalleled insight into Iran's strategy, its regional praxis, and the implication for Israel's security. We are honored to have her with us today. Mrs. Shine, welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me and for the opportunity to be with you. I'll take 10 to 15 minutes to make a short brief on things on the general picture, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. So let me start by saying that there are 3 issues that I want to touch that were before the war, when Iran was preparing the war, and how they are executed now after the war started. So let me start with the first and the most important issue for Iran, and that is continuity. The Iranian regime from the beginning understood that what is important in order to make sure that the regime survives is to show that there is a continuity in all the jobs and the state is functioning in spite of every attack that they could imagine before. And therefore, what we saw from before the war was that they have announced it, that each personality, each high-ranking security commander had a replacement, 2 or 3 replacements, and in order to make sure that everything is functioning, even if someone is killed. And that's what happened. The head of the IRGC was killed on the first day. Immediately, his deputy, Wahidi, was nominated. In brackets, let me say, this Wahidi is a very bad person. He has a lot of blood of Israelis and Jews on his hands. He was responsible for the 2 attacks in Argentina, on the embassy, on the Jewish community center in the 90s. And he immediately stepped into the role of the head of the IRGC. And the same with others, the defense minister, one of the advisors, one of the intelligence person. Everyone was replaced immediately with the second, and probably there are other 1 or 2 that will replace if they are assassinated. Now, the leader has decided from the beginning, before the war, that Larijani will be the one who will coordinate all the political as well as the military campaign that will be. He did it because he understood that his capabilities are suitable for this job, and he actually removed, according to the procedure, the constitution, he removed the president from being the head of the National Security Council, not physically removed, but once decided that Larijani will do it. So everything from the point of view of who is leading what was prepared before. I don't know what was the leader himself thinking, whether he organized before his son, but probably when we see now the results of the decision to select his son Mujtaba to be the supreme leader, probably that was also organized this way or the other. So that's one thing, and that is very important. The Iranians are continuing to say we are functioning, everything is under control, and from the point of view of the regime, this is the ultimate goal. Even if half of Iran will be destroyed, which will not, but even if that, what is important is that they stay in power and they can say at the end of the day, we succeeded to stand vis-a-vis the US and Israel. The second issue is the issue of what they will be, how they will respond to any attack. What they have said before and what they are doing today. So before they said, 1, they will attack Israel, they are doing it. 2, they will attack the American bases in the Gulf, they are doing it. I'll say a word in a minute about the Gulf. And 3, they will close the Hormuz Straits, and they closed it. So all these 3 elements that they say that they will do as a retaliation to any attack on Iran, they are fulfilling and beyond. Now, a word about the issue of the Gulf and Hormuz. Iran doesn't have a lot of tools in order to stand vis-a-vis the attack, and therefore, what they decided to do is not to challenge with the military capabilities, but to challenge on the economic sphere. And they have put pressure on oil facilities attacked oil facilities in Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, gas facilities in Qatar. They have closed the Hormuz, and therefore from their point of view, this will be the main tool to make sure that the president of the US will decide that the war is too expensive economically, and of course the consequences politically, and that will be the main reason for him to stop. The other one will be the Gulf states. They didn't want a war before it started. They have been putting pressure on President Trump before the war. They didn't succeed, and they are quite nervous about that, I can tell you. The Iranians believe that they are now today also one of the elements that will pressure President Trump to stop the war. Now, the second point, I said 1 is continuity, 2 is the military response, and 3 is the length of the war. Now, the Iranians have said before that they will decide when the war stops. It will not be like the 12-day war in June 25, that the US and Israel decided to stop the war. They said before, we will decide. What is happening now is that they are saying openly, that doesn't mean that underneath there are no different talks and options open with the Americans, but openly they are saying Iran is not interested in a ceasefire, the Kalibaf, who is the head of the parliament, and in his past was a commander in the IRGC and a very important player in the current war, says we are not interested in a ceasefire. We want to make sure that the ones who attacked us will pay so heavily that they will think twice before starting any war in the future. And actually what we see now is that Iran is trying to change the equation of the relations between Iran and Israel and the US, and to cut the vicious cycle of war, ceasefire, negotiations, and war. That's what they are saying, and therefore they are saying we can continue this war for a long time. That's not for sure, of course, but that is the formal position now expressed. Together with that, the president of Iran has put 3 demands that Iran will put on the table in order to stop the war. One is what he is calling the rights of Iran, supporting the rights of Iran. By rights, he means enrichment. The Iranians are saying from the beginning, all over the negotiations with the US, that the enrichment is their right. They are willing to compromise on the level of enrichment, but not the very right of enriching uranium. Second, compensation. He has said we will demand compensation on all the harm that has been done to Iran. And the third is secure international guarantee to make sure that Iran will not be attacked anymore. So we are already, from that point of view, we are already in a kind of a negotiation, because one side has put its demands. The other side, everybody knows what are its demands. But for the time being, it doesn't look from what we see, the demands put by Iran and the demand that was put by the US before the war of zero enrichment, of curbing the ballistic missile program. We see no way to bridge the gap between the position of both sides. Now let me say 2 other words. I'm just looking on the, I have more 5 minutes or something like that. So let me touch on 2 other issues that I think are important. One is the internal situation in Iran. We heard the Iranians talking to their own people, saying, don't dare going to the street, doing anything against the regime. Everybody that will be caught making any pictures somewhere or sending something out of his phone will just be a traitor and will be judged like a traitor, which everybody understands what is the result of being a traitor, being killed. Second, they have put a lot of Basij and IRGC people in the streets, in different places, in the big cities, so that the people will see that there are forces on the streets and will be thinking twice before doing anything against the regime. In the last 2 days, we have few reports that we don't know the extent of them, that probably Israel has attacked some of the checkpoints of the Basij and the IRGC with UAVs that some of them or all of them, I don't know, came from within Iran. Now, there is very small information about what happened exactly, but if I'm trying to combine it to what happened in June, that we saw UAVs that took to the airs from Iran itself, from the soil of Iran, not from the outside. I assume that this is something that has to do with prior preparation to make sure that such checkpoints and such developments on the public sphere will be handled in a way that the public will see that those people that are on the streets are attacked. And that might, in those who planned it, might encourage the public to get out against the regime. And the last point that I want to mention is that actually, just to say a word about that, and this is a question that I'm asked a lot, is the US and Israel on the same page on all the issues and until the end of the war? And what I want to say here is first that I have never seen, and I saw a lot of cooperation between Israel and the US. I have never seen such a cooperation, such an intimate cooperation between the two armies, between the two organizations, CIA and Mossad. And really, I think, and of course, under the umbrella of CENTCOM, the military cooperation, I think it's something that will be learned for years and will be a very important contribution to the future of the relations between Israel and the US. So that's that for the time being. Now, we know that Trump was never in favor of long wars. Actually, he didn't want to open any war. If you remember when he came to the White House, he said he came to close wars, not to open wars. But he found himself now opening a war, and it is very important for him not to have a long war. I think Israel is in a different position. Israel would prefer longer, but if I have to make an assumption how it will be ended, I think when Trump will decide, that will be the end of the war. I don't see Israel continuing any war without the Americans. And the other issue is that we are not on the same page, I think, is also the issue of the targets in Iran. Israel has targeted not refineries, oil stations close to Tehran. The US didn't like it. In brackets, I didn't like it as well. And I think it will not happen again because of the issue of course, because of the issue of the price of oil and the will of the US not to encourage any more attacks on oil in the Gulf. So there are some issues that are not that Israel and the US are not on the same page, especially, of course, the issue of the end of the war. But generally speaking, it's unbelievable cooperation and coordination and planning and everything. So thank you. I stop here.
Thank you, Mrs. Shine, for this briefing. And we do have a few questions for you. I'll start with the first one. Given the pressure Iran is currently facing, we're talking about military, economic, domestic pressure. Do you see any realistic prospects for an internal change or even a regime transformation in the coming years?
Well, that is the biggest question that is difficult to answer because it involves the Iranian people, and we don't have any way to measure it, to know what is the potential of that to happen. So what we are saying when we say to ourselves what could be on this issue, what could be the developments, I think it will be correct to say that Iran entered the war in a very difficult situation, economically, socially, politically. And it will end the war in a much worse situation than it entered the war. And therefore, Iran after the war will be a weak state with weak economy, with the same problems, even harsher than they had before with water and energy supply to the population. A lot of destruction and with no reserves and money in order to start a reconstruction. And therefore, I think that the more the time passes, the people in Iran will understand the regime, even if the regime survives and stays in place, that this is a very weak regime. And I think it might take some time, but I think people will decide that this is the chance to change the situation, and it might happen. Now, there is another scenario. I think President Trump was hoping for this scenario, and that is a change within the system. Someone or someones that will decide that enough is enough, and let's go for an understanding with the US. I don't know if so. On the surface, it looks that Mujtaba, the new leader, supreme leader, doesn't. There is no chance that he will be the one that will make a change. He was very close to his father in the last decades. He was the one who went between his father and the IRGC. So to think that he will come up one day and say, "Okay, we are giving up our enrichment. We are doing that and that." It's difficult to see, but as I said, Iran will be very weak after this war, and they have to think, if they are able to make such a decision, that they have to change dramatically in order to make sure that they are not collapsing economically and others after the war. And so there is a hope that within the system, not as a revolution or not as a coup d'etat or something like that, but within the system, there will be an understanding that change has to come, and the terms to get to terms with the US will be beneficial for them.
Yeah, we're just talking about a change, and in your assessment, can the current conflict significantly reduce Iran's nuclear and missiles threat, or these capabilities likely to remain a long-term challenge?
No, I think no question that it is reducing already the capabilities, and it will reduce even more. There was a very important attack yesterday on this facility that the Iranians have been building before the June 25 war and continued until this war. And that was a place that was connected, without getting into details because we don't have time, it was connected to the military aspect of the program. It was struck yesterday and damaged in a way that it will not be any more valuable. There are strikes again on the other facilities that were also attacked in previous year. The problem that stays with us is the problem of the nuclear material, the enriched uranium that is still in the 3 sites that we know in Iran. Everybody is talking about the 440 kilograms of enriched uranium to 60%. I tend to talk also about 2 to 4 tons of enriched uranium to 20%, because once you know to enrich, you can enrich to 60 and 80 and 90. That's not a problem. And I think Iran has a lot of material that once enriched to a military level, could serve to have more than 10 to even more than that the nuclear devices. The issue, of course, is that they don't have a site where to enrich. As long as we know, we don't know if there is any secret place. So I think for a long time this program was set back. On the missile side, Israel and the US are attacking both missiles, both launchers, and the industrial infrastructure of the missiles. So I do hope, in spite of the fact that they continue to launch missiles on Israel, but in small numbers, very small numbers, that doesn't mean that they will have a big capacity at the end of the war. Actually, I think they will have less and less. I don't quote the numbers of the military because I never know if it's completely correct or not, so I don't know. But there is a major damage to the launchers, which is the most important part, and as well to the industrial infrastructure.
Thank you. Now let's talk a little bit about geopolitics. And with Iran's recent attack on the Gulf states, do you expect any religions cooperation with Israel that actually deepened, as we have seen over the last few years, or it could face a new constraints?
I think paradoxically, the way the Gulf states are observing this war and suffering from this war, they are in very conflicting situation. On one hand, of course, they hated before, and now they hate even more Iran. They know it's an enemy. They know they have the capability, and they are willing to use their capabilities to attack the Gulf states. At the same time, they are annoyed by the American decision to start a war without taking into account their interest and what they have been saying to the US before. Two, they know the geography is not going to change. They will stay as neighbors of Iran in the future as well. And three, they are not so happy. Most of them, I'll say exceptionally, they are not so happy from a situation where Iran will be weak and Israel will be stronger. They are quite concerned with what they believe to be Israel's intentions to be, they call it hegemon of the region. It especially was emphasized after the attack in Qatar, in Doha. They really think that Israel is in a new mode that some of them don't like too much. At the same time, the two countries that have already normalization with Israel, Bahrain and the Emirates, are in very good relations with Israel and continue to be in good relations. The Emirates are paying a price for that. They are attacked more than any country in the Gulf. But I think they understand the importance of relations with Israel, and they are also capable to intercept most of the missiles because of the technology that they have, and of course because of CENTCOM and its cooperation. And last word about Saudi Arabia, that was the most important one to Israel. The decision of the Saudis not to normalize relations with Israel goes far before this war. They decided after the 7th of October, where we were very close to normalization with Saudi Arabia, they decided that it doesn't serve their interest. And today they are far away. I don't think we'll see it in the near future. It's very important for them, the Palestinian issue, not because they love the Palestinians, but because it's important to their own people. So I think as long as we are not doing anything positive on the Palestinian issue, they will not be there. So they have their contact with Israel in different ways that support them, but not a formally one.
Thank you. Finally, let's look beyond the region. How do Russia and China view the current confrontation between Israel, the US, and Iran?
So both Russia and China, of course, are part of this camp of resistance against the US, which is Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. I think they are very worried from a scenario where there is a regime change in Iran, and they hope that this will not happen in Iran. We know that the Russians are supporting Iran on a minimal level, which is intelligence and cyber activity, but not in a direct operational activity. There was a phone call between Putin and Trump. The Russians are trying to be a moderator between the sides, but I don't think it will work. And this is the limits of the relations between these two countries. They are supporting each other. They have good, very close relations on military as well as nuclear fields, but they are not going to sacrifice their interest in coming to support. And they are, of course, very much involved in the war in Ukraine. So it is a huge limit on their capabilities to support Iran with, for instance, anti-aircraft system or something like that. China is worried on one thing. It wants the US not to succeed. Actually, that's both of them. But China wants a free flow of oil, and that's what's important for them. They are buying from Iran, and they are buying from the Gulf, even more than from Iran. And the fact that there is a problem now, it's not that they have any shortage, no shortage in the world, but and not in China, but they are concerned. They are buying also a lot of gas from Qatar, and the current situation is not in their favor. But they don't have a lot what to do. There is a planned meeting between Xi and Trump at the end of this month. We'll see if it happens, and therefore they don't want to jeopardize their vast interest in vis-a-vis the US on the economic field and others. So that's the situation with those two countries.
Thank you very much, Sima, for invaluable insight and a very interesting conversation. We are now invite Dr. Andrew M. Hutter, National and International Chairman of the Board of Israeli Bonds, to close today's program.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mrs. Shine, and thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Shoshani, for your insights and your honest breakdown. I think those of us in the United States are shocked when we see the news reports, and it's nice to hear an honest opinion, and I appreciate you sharing the differences between Israel and the United States in some cases. So I would like to thank you for all of that. As I've said, it's my honor to serve as the chairman of the Board of Israel Bonds, and I truly believe that we are the best way to connect the diaspora to the state of Israel. And that's shown today by the well over 1,000 people that have signed on to hear this. I've been invited to many briefings in my role as chairman of the board, but I think the nice thing about Israel Bonds is that we open this up to everybody. You don't have to be a board member or a special person. We're opening up as much information as we can to all of the purchasers, because everybody is important. We've been thankful, as Donnie has told you, to be able to raise over $2 billion a year for the last 3 years. But it's very important that there's strength in numbers. So I am honored to have all of you here today, and I thank all of you for your support. We look forward to being able to present more to you in the future. Am Yisrael Chai, an early Chag Pesach Sameach to all, and thank you very, very much for all of you to be here today.